Winnie the Pooh's Homerun Derby is an Adobe Flash game that simplifies baseball to as simple of a concept as it can get. You hit the ball, and if you hit it well, you get a home run. If you get enough home runs, you pass through one of the 8 stages. This would have been a perfect concept for kids because it was super accessible, as every computer had Adobe Flash. That was until they killed it off a few months ago, which means that I had to jank my way around it to review this. So why should I review Winnie the Pooh's Homerun Derby? Well, I needed a break, and a nice, simple, casual game for kids seems like the perfect choice. Stage 1, Eeyore. You need to land 3 home runs out of 10 throws, and while that seems daunting, it's really not. If you can time your swing, you can get home runs really easily. This is your tutorial. The green area is where you can hit, except it's a little bit bigger than you think. Point, click, home run. It's easy. So here's a cakewalk, and that unlocks stage 2, who is Lumpy? I don't know who Lumpy is. Anyway, his gimmick is that you need to land 5 home runs out of 15 swings, which is slightly harder than Eeyore, but it's practically just as easy, really. After you beat Lumpy, you get to stage 3, Piglet. Piglet requires you to land 8 home runs out of 20 throws, which is when I noticed that the game is requiring a bit more skill out of its players. But that's not enough. Piglet also comes with a first gimmick, fastballs. So even though you have to be good enough to whack a bunch of balls back, it's making it harder to hit the ball too. It felt like a fair increase in the skill floor, and beating him unlocks stage 4, Kanga and Roo. And here the game starts showing some teeth. Kanga and Roo require you land 12 home runs out of 25 throws, which is already pretty hard. I do think that it's good to have challenge, but then Kanga and Roo are also the first difficult opponent. Their gimmick is that the ball zigzags up and down, which makes it really hard to predict where the ball's gonna end up. Their speed is also way more variable, so sometimes they'll throw it like Eeyore, and sometimes, well, even Piglet can't throw him that fast. I'll be honest, I thought I would fail this level my first try, and while I knew I could beat Kanga and Roo, if the game was giving me this much trouble so early on, I wasn't sure if I could beat it. But with that, I unlocked stage 5, Rabbit. Alright, Rabbit has his own nonsense, but in the sense that he violates the laws of physics. His gimmick is throwing balls that accelerate midair, which are way easier to hit than I'm making it sound. And he does require that every other swing out of 30 is a home run, but compared to Kanga and Roo, dude is a breather. Beating him is really easy, which unlocks stage 6, Owl. You know what? Screw Owl. Owl is a bastard, and I'm not exaggerating one bit. He has this illegal nonsense where the ball zigs back and forth, side to side, and even though I managed to beat him, I still have no idea how to hit that ball properly. Remember earlier on when I said if you can time your swing, you can get home runs pretty easily? Yeah, Owl's zigzaggy dog shaggy throws are genuinely difficult to both land and time properly. So when there were a bunch of times where I could have theoretically gotten a home run, game said nope. Homerun Derby is extremely cruel at this point in the sense that unless you get a perfect home run, it's always a failure. Swing and a miss, swing and a foul ball, swing and a hit. Okay, maybe, but did it fly out of the field? Oh, it didn't! I understand video games generally well and what kind of message they convey, and at this point, Winnie the Pooh's Homerun Derby has had enough of your bullshit, and is teaching you that just because you're a child and you're innocent enough to play Winnie the Pooh games online, you are not exempt from suffering. For context, it took me less than 15 minutes to get to Owl, but Owl alone took up the rest of my night. Here's a tip. If you want to have a chance against Owl and aren't a Japanese speedrunner, the proper way to win is to actually completely ignore him and grind Rabbit instead. Both the character and the animal if it makes you feel better, but if you can keep getting home runs off of Rabbit, you can get 50,000 points off a single run, which you can spend on upgrades which you desperately need. The higher your stats, the better, but you're gonna have a very bad time with Owl if you don't improve him to at least 10 each. Some people thought he was unbeatable, and I can totally see why, but with enough time and practice, you can do it. Which leads us to stage 7, Tigger. His gimmick is that when he throws balls, they disappear midair, and I'm pretty sure someone intentionally pronounced his name with a hard N because of how cruel he can be. Let's put it this way, you thought Owl was unbeatable? Tigger can be a genuine brick wall to a bunch of players, like permanently. While I personally didn't find him nearly as difficult as L, if you can't visualize a ball in your head and predict where it's gonna land and when, you will never beat him. I'm not kidding. If you can't interpolate the ball's trajectory, you can be maxed out and still fail repeatedly. The worst part is that this bouncy cock requires an astounding 28 home runs to beat and throws 40 balls. But if you somehow manage to go through all of that, you unlock stage 8, also known as a special stage, Christopher Robin. There are no words to adequately describe how much disdain I have towards him. You know how Tigger threw 40 balls? Christopher Robin requires 40 home runs out of 50. His gimmick is mastering everything, so you have no idea what he's gonna do, and neither does he. If you want to remotely stand a chance, you have to get everything maxed and master everything he can throw at you back, from the invisible balls to the zaggies. If you can't get 8 home runs out of the first 10 swings, you are screwed. You don't get any of this preparation nonsense. You need to master raw timing and reflexes. I've spent more time on Christopher Robin than I have on the rest of the game combined. Multiple times. Days were spent to try and get anywhere, and I will admit right now that I can't beat him. I tried, but if you manage to get to Christopher Robin, the game will mock you the entire way to the end. What, you thought you were gonna win? Do you even deserve to win? You fought so hard, and for what? For this? Did you have fun? Did you get it out of your system? Why did you even bother trying? What, because you thought a good person would beat this game? Would a good person play this for so long? Why subject yourself to this? Are you even sure you're a good person anymore? What's wrong with you? You knew it was impossible, didn't you? Why didn't you listen? Why are you still doing this? Always acting just like this, so rash, uncontrollable. Why don't I just beat it out of you? Why couldn't you just be normal and submit and die? You know you don't belong here. You never belonged here. And finally, out of the cacophony of thought, Christopher Robin uttered to Pooh. Silly old bear. You were the summer keeping the fall from falling into my winter. But seasons change, Pooh. Your bat's getting colder with every swing, more worn out with every ball. Pooh could do nothing but look upon the child's twisted face, eyes gleaming with psychopathic delight at Pooh's suffering. Christopher Robin enjoyed this simple game. Pooh may be a silly old bear that has lived for 90 years, longer than any other bear he's seen, but Pooh's no god. He would fall eventually. The child laughed. His voice echoed through the silent field, resonating deep through the 100-acre woods. The day is bright and sunny, but Pooh hasn't seen night for what seemed like weeks. The sun doesn't move, and neither does Christopher Robin. He pulls out another ball and throws it at the bear, blazing through the air, disappearing as if reality itself wished for this cruel game to end. Pooh heard the glove behind him shudder from the vibration, a loud crack that drilled deep into his sawdust-filled head. It's only a matter of time until you throw your bat down in disgust and mourn that which you'll never be. I can see it, you're getting sloppier. What used to be a nightmare for you is now doable, but what was easy is impossible. Surrender yourself, because we both know this truth. You can never defeat me, Pooh Bear. Pooh refused to believe it. He swung his bat harder than he had ever until this point, at a ball that was frantically jumping from side to side as if it was in two places at the same time. He felt his bat crack from the pressure and how his stitches began to come undone. They too were worn out beyond their point, but the little old bear couldn't stop. Pooh was preoccupied with Christopher Robin's eyes, staring into him, burning like a brimstone that would never erode, engulfed in a hellish blaze. There was no avoiding his gaze. Apparently some men die twice, once when they perish, and once when their memory is forgotten. You will die soon, and your legacy will die with me, Pooh Bear. Nobody will tell stories about you, or this 100-acre wasteland. At that point, Pooh's trance cleared and he saw what stood before him. Christopher Robin, all alone on a stump, surrounded by thousands of baseballs on the ground, and behind the fence mountains of yarn and decomposing cowhide from the unfathomable number of home runs. What used to be a river was now a layer of baseballs stretching as far as his eyes could see. This was no longer the 100-acre woods. This was a 1,000-acre landfill. And yet for as many times as Pooh swung, it was not enough for Christopher Robin. Silly old bear. Did you know that you and the baseballs are just like each other? You both have 108 stitches, a stitch for every feeling. And as soon as I'm finished, every feeling will be dread. Pooh cried and understood everything now. His friends that tortured him with a home run derby for days on end were not doing it out of cruelty, but out of the realization that only Pooh was capable of defeating Christopher Robin. They were training Pooh to defeat him by making Pooh learn how to counter anything that Christopher Robin could throw. And what good did it do? As many times as Pooh swung the bat, it never seemed to satiate the sadistic child in his never-ending pitches, as they branded Pooh with a deeper sense of hopelessness with every swing. Was his friend even still in there? Somewhere? Was he trying to escape, or is Christopher Robin just biding his time until he can finally end it and throw a ball into Pooh's head, ripping apart the stitches barely holding him together? My final review score is Christopher Robin is the worst Winnie the Pooh character by far, and because the original book is in the public domain where I live, I will make my own adaptation of the series that undoes his very existence, for he is a concept that does not belong, with a notable fuck you to Flash for blue screening my PC repeatedly. Okay, maybe I shouldn't be mad at Flash because there's two ways to interpret it, because it was either some weird interaction that broke my drivers, or Flash was crashing my computer intentionally in a vain attempt for me to not play this game. So, maybe the real hero was Adobe Flash? Yeah, probably not.